because yesterday at 6 p.m., Senate Democrats decided that their political interests outweighed the interests of a country on fire. They stopped a fire truck en route to the fire. They blocked a rescue package at a critical moment. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi pulled the rug out from underneath the entire American people, and millions of people will lose their jobs as a result, and businesses will fail. And it is Chuck Schumer's fault, and it is Nancy Pelosi's fault, and it is the fault of 47 Democratic senators who would not vote to advance a rescue package that is urgently needed. More than $1.5 trillion. It helps everybody who is reeling. It stops the bleeding. It would have calmed markets. It would have kept people employed. And they blocked it. They blocked it. Here is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, cut number 14, on the floor of the Senate last night, laying out exactly what happened.
I'm told the futures market is down 5%. I'm also told that that's when trading stops. So the notion that we have time to play games here with the American economy and the American people is utterly absurd. So I want to explain what just happened. Our good friends on the other side would not have been disadvantaged one bit if this vote had succeeded, because it would have required potentially 30 more hours of discussion, during which these seemingly endless negotiations could go on as long as they would like. Now, the buildup to this, so everybody fully understands, is that we had a high level of bipartisanship in 5 different working groups over the last 48 hours, where members who were participating were reaching agreement. And then all of a sudden, the Democratic leader and the Speaker of the House shows up. And we're back to square one. So we're fiddling here, fiddling with the emotions of the American people, fiddling with the markets, fiddling with our health care. The American people expect us to act tomorrow. And I want everybody to fully understand, if we aren't able to act tomorrow, it'll be because of our colleagues on the other side continuing to dicker when the country expects us to come together and address this problem. Now, I changed my vote, which gives me the opportunity to move to reconsider at a later time. That's all I can do in the face of this obstruction. Look, I can understand obstruction when you're trying to achieve something. This obstruction achieves nothing whatsoever, other than prevent us from getting into a position where there are literally 30 more hours that they could use to continue to dicker. So at a time when the country is crying out for bipartisanship and cooperation, and we saw that over the last 48 hours when regular members of the Senate, not in the leadership office, not in the Speaker's office, for goodness sake, she's the Speaker of the House, not the Speaker of the Senate. We don't have one. We were doing just fine until that intervention. So I want the American people to fully understand what's going on here. The markets are already reacting to this outrageous nonsense. We have an obligation to the American people to deal with this emergency and to deal with it tomorrow. And if we don't, I want everybody to fully understand, you've seen everybody who's on record. Now, I've conspicuously avoided trying to turn this into any kind of partisan effort for 2 days. But it's pretty clear what's going on here. And we'll have this cloture vote again at some point of my choosing. And hopefully, some adults will show up on the other side of the room and understand the gravity of the situation. and the need to act before the markets go down further and the American people become even more depressed about our lack of ability to come together under the most extraordinary circumstances. We've never been confronted with anything like this before. It's totally different. And we're not immune to it in terms of the public health risk. Coronavirus has hit the Senate today as well. We have 5 members in self-quarantine. So everybody understands the emergency, particularly when it hits close to home. It's not just back in our states, but right here in the Senate. So I would say to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, step up. Step up. Help us reach an agreement so we can do what needs to be done for the American people.
Call your Democratic senators and tell them to lift the blockade on this desperately needed rescue package. The Senate switchboard is 202-224-3121. Over at my Twitter link, I've posted a way to find out who represents you, but you should know the 3 states that are reeling the most, that are getting the most help, that the president spent the most time talking to their governors yesterday and directing FEMA to help them, are New York, Washington State, and California. Governors Cuomo, Inslee, and Newsom are all Democrats. All 3 of those states have Democratic senators, and their rescue package is being held up. But it's not just them. Every small business in America is close to shuttering if they depend upon people walking in the front door, because people aren't walking in the front door. Every small business is at a minimum deeply impacted. I run one. I run the Nixon Foundation. I got 40 people at home. I've kept them on the payroll. Praying that we can reopen. We make our money from admissions and from donations and from the sale of merchandise and from the rental of facilities to groups that wish to use them. It's shuttered, and it has to be. I'm not complaining about that. And I've got enough cushion that I can keep people on the payroll for a time. And I think most businesses in America want to keep their employees on the payroll for a time. They need, I need, everybody needs this rescue package, and the Senate Democrats blocked it last night at 6 p.m. It's enormous. It's massive. It would have turned everybody's emotional state around, their readiness to endure, their willingness to believe that the window was open, the money was flooding the country, and Democrats decided, for their own particular partisan political reasons that I cannot fathom, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer decided to tank the economy today. It had been reeling for a week. It was getting its footing. Science is getting its footing. The country is getting its footing. Testing will be caught up. There is a very, very promising, according to Governor Cuomo and President Trump, combination of 2 drugs. I spent 2 hours talking to a toxicologist on Saturday telling me why and why it might not work. I am not as optimistic as them, but somewhat optimistic. And along come the Democrats, and they decide to make this a political moment. It's like telling FDR, no, we're not going to respond to Pearl Harbor. It's like telling George W. Bush and Barack Obama, no, we're not going to respond to the Great Recession, but it is worse than the Great Recession. By far. It is a 20 to 40% shrinkage of GDP, maybe more in 1 quarter. We need this bill. Call Schumer. Call Durbin. 202-224-3121. Demand they act. They've already wasted 12 hours.